Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Pokimane Twitch stream transition made by Sam Woodhall. Now Sam put a tutorial up on YouTube on how to make this in Apple Motion and get it applied to OBS. However, he uses Apple Motion where me and a lot of other people use Adobe After Effects. So today we're going to be talking about recreating that in After Effects, applying it to OBS, Streamlabs, XSplit, whatever software you're using, and also setting up a hotkey to make this transition smooth. So one thing to keep in mind is I am not an expert in After Effects. Some people watching this may be experts, and if you want to point out anything I did wrong, go ahead and comment below and let me know the right way to do things. But the way I did it definitely gets the job done. So I'm going to go over recreating it, applying it to OBS, and then the hotkeys. I will also have a file available for download below, so if you just want to download it, open it up in After Effects, and put in your own picture, it'll definitely save you a lot of time, and it'll make your Twitch stream stand out a little bit. So let's talk about it. So you're going to come into After Effects. You're going to say New Composition. We'll just name this Chroma Stinger. Like that. You're going to set it to 1920 by 1080. You can do 720 if you want. Let's just set this. Can I just type it? There we go. 1080. Going to say 60 frames. And then you want to set the duration to. I'm going to have this one set to 3 seconds. If you want it longer, you can. But I think 3 seconds and under is ideal. So we're going to hit OK. We have this here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make a rectangle. Let's make this white and get rid of the stroke there. Okay. So you're going to make a rectangle like this. That looks good to me. And we're going to name this Stinger. So let's rename Stinger. All right. And then we're going to rotate it a little bit. So select the layer, hit R for rotate, and then we're going to set this to about 15 degrees like that. You can do more if you want. I think this is what looks the best. So next we're going to select this here. We're going to click it, hold it. You're going to press down Shift so it moves only side to side. We're going to drag it off screen here. Alright, then we're going to hit P for position. And we want this to start off screen, kind of swipe in, and then move off slowly. So we're going to hit the little clock here to start the keyframes. So we have one at the beginning here. We're going to move this in to about, I don't know, half a second or so. We'll move it into about here. We're gonna click and drag this over. We want it about here. That looks good. So now you have this sliding in like that. So next we're going to select the end position, which is going to be somewhere towards the end, probably around here. That looks good. And we're going to do the same thing. Hold it, press down Shift, and drag it completely off screen like that. So now when you play it, you have it come in and then slowly go off. We might want to adjust that slightly more, but that's looking good for now. So the next step is to add a little bit of, because this is just, static, same speed moving across, so we want a little bit of life to add to it. So you're just going to click where it says position here, so it selects the keyframes here. You're going to right click, go down to Keyframe Assistant, and select Easy Ease. Now what we can do is go into the graph editor, and we just want to make this so it's not so uniform. We want it to have a little bit of life. So let's select this, and let's see how we're gonna do this here. Want it? No, I think something like this is good. Maybe bring this down a little bit more. And you can see that's going to get really fast at one point. So we could also figure out how to, you know, just mess around with it. Get you something that looks good. You know, test it out. That comes in real snappy. We don't quite want it that snappy. So let's try, what am I doing? Here we go. Like that. Somewhere around like that I think is good. Maybe a little bit slower. If you want to be under that 4,000 pixels a second. Let's just test that out. Yeah, see, not quite as snappy. It's looking a lot better. See? Look at that. So you just kind of mess around with this until you get a shape that you like. I personally think that, maybe we'll undo that. Doing something like this is gonna be real nice. I mean, not too crazy. Let's try that again. You just play around with it till you find something you like. I think that looks great. Kind of snaps in, not too fast, and then slowly like eases off, gains speed as it goes off the screen. I think that's perfect. So now we can go back to the regular view. We're going to add next, we're going to add the green screen behind this. So we're going to do a new layer, new shape layer. We're gonna bring this down, click and drag it down below the stinger. We're gonna name this Chroma. So now we're going to take our shape, and you want it green. So we, you know, to get the exact green that you're looking for, you're just going to want to type 00FF00. That's perfectly green. Hit OK. We're going to take, and we're going to make the rectangle just slightly bigger than the area of our screen. And maybe a little bit longer too, just to give it extra room. So when we make the shape, we want to make it, you know, a decent length longer, so that when it slides off the end, you don't get that a little bar of nothing here. So now that we have that made, let's make sure we're at the beginning of the timeline. We're going to drag this, hold shift so don't get too ahead of ourselves. We're going to make sure that the corners and the edge here are contained within this little stinger that we made, right? Then we're going to grab this swirl here on Chroma, and we're just going to drag it so that it matches the movement and speed of the stinger. And now when we play, we get this nice Chroma background here, no bars on the side. We're going to be able to green screen this out real easily in OBS. Perfect. Alright, so now that we have this all lined up and going good, the way this is going to work is you're going to have, you're going to have one scene here. Say you're just chatting scene, and then as this transitions in, you're going to chroma out the green, and behind it maybe you put your gameplay scene or whatever else behind it. So you're kind of going to see both of them at the same time, and it's going to look real smooth and nice. And you could leave this transition the way it is with just the white bar swiping across and revealing your next scene, and that would be fine, but I want to add a little bit more animation to this, add a little something behind it. So I'm going to drag in a nice wallpaper sized image of my logo just for demonstration purposes, and we're going to show you how to do that. So we're going to go back to the beginning here. I'm going to select my wallpaper, and we're going to drag it below the stinger but above the chroma. Right? And this way, I mean, you can tell it's not going to look right now. It doesn't look the way we want. So what we do is you go to this track mat. You can hit F4 on your keyboard to pop it up, or if you don't have F4, you can toggle switches down the bottom here. We're going to select this drop down and set it to alpha matte to the stinger. So now when the stinger comes across, it's going to reveal what's behind it. See that? So now all we have to do is get this wallpaper moving so that there's a little bit more life to it. Because, I mean, you could even do just that. That would be fine. But I want to add a little bit of movement. So we're going to select the keyframe. So click, hold shift. We got 2, we got 3. We're going to copy these. Copy. We're going to click on the wallpaper. Make sure to hit P to get the positions up there. And we're going to just paste these there. See that? So now the wallpaper is moving with it, which is close to what we want, but not quite. We want it to be a little bit different. So we're going to just adjust these keyframes a bit and play around and find what works best. So I'm going to move this one in so it starts a little bit after. We're going to move this one so it kind of lines up a little bit different. We're going to move this like that. Oop, didn't mean to double click there. We're going to move this in like that a little bit. So now we're going to see how this looks. And that's real close. We might want to just adjust the position of everything then, so that we want to kind of want it to snap in from the side, snap into this rectangle from the side as well. So let's go back to the beginning. Where are we at here? We got the wallpaper selected. Let's click it, hold shift. We're going to move it a little bit off this way and see what we get. Okay, that's not quite there yet. Not quite there. Oh, looks like we added a keyframe at the beginning. So here we want this a little off to the side there. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. You see how it kind of snaps in from the side? That's perfect. So now we want to make sure that I kind of think that the stinger should you kind of see how the logo is sliding off to the left side of the stinger. I kind of want it the opposite, where I want the stinger to go faster than the wallpaper. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the last keyframe here. We're going to grab our wallpaper, hold shift, and we're going to drag it back a little bit. And this way it doesn't have as far to travel. And see, it's kind of better where it's the stinger is going a little bit faster than the wallpaper, but not quite. So we can just exaggerate that a little bit further by doing the same thing. Holding shift, dragging it back. See how this looks. Yeah, I think that's going to look good. Look at this. See? Boom. Perfect. Perfect. So now that that's all done, we're going to export this, and we're going to go over how to set it up in OBS. So what you want to do is go File, Export, Add to Render Queue. And you can render this at 720 if you want. I think 1080 is going to work just fine. You're going to click where it says lossless. You're going to make sure that this says QuickTime and that the channel changes from RGB to RGB plus alpha. This means that it's going to actually hold that transparency in the video so that you can put a scene behind it. We don't have any audio. You can add audio if you want, but I'm just going to turn audio output off. That looks good to me. You can resize it if you want. I think this is perfect. So we're going to hit OK. You can change, you click this and set the file name to save location and wherever you want. I think there's good. You're just gonna hit render and get the video file ready, and we'll bring it into OBS here. All right, so here I'm using Streamlabs OBS, but the process is basically going to be the same for regular OBS, maybe even XSplit and other things like that. So don't get too worried if you don't if you don't use Streamlabs OBS. I know a lot of people don't really like it, but this is what I'm going to show you in. So first thing, we have the two scenes here that we're going to transition between. So we're going to go from just chatting to our gaming capture. So first we're going to create a new scene, and we're just going to name this transition itself. You can name it anything you want, but this is what's going to hold the first part of the transition. I'm going to click done here, and what you want is you're going to add a scene. So first we'll add the scene. We're going to go from just chatting to the gaming capture. So we're going to add the source of that scene, and then we're going to add a media source. Here's where we're going to select the stinger that we just made. So you can name it anything you want. I'm just going to name it transition, just for the sake of knowing what's going on. So we have that transition. We're going to browse to the file, green screen transition is what I named it. Here it is. So there we have it. Restart playback when source becomes active. This is very important. This means that, you see here it stopped going because the video came to its end and it just kind of stopped. So we have to make sure that's selected so that every time we switch to the scene, it restarts that animation. Show nothing when the playback ends. You can have this enabled if you want. I find it's a lot harder to, find the video like on your, in this box here. It's a lot harder to find this when it disappears, and to make sure that it's all lined up with everything. So we're going to leave it just like this. This should be good. You can change the speed if you want, but everything should be perfect. This is how we want it. So then we're going to, fill this to the screen so that it covers everything. The easiest way I do that is to just do transform fit to screen. There we go. So now if we're in just chatting, we switch to the transition itself. We can see it covers us with the chroma. So next we're going to create another scene here, and we're going to name this, we'll just name it transition scene. This is the scene that you're actually going to switch to when you want to play the transition. Don't need an H in there. Transition scene. So with that made, you're going to add two things. So first you're going to add the scene we just made, the transition itself. So grab that here. There it is. We're going to add another scene to go behind this. We're going to add our destination scene. So for that, for us, that's gaming. So we're going to add that. We're going to make sure that scene B is below the transition itself, so that this time when we play it, it's kind of the same thing. It'll show us here and then have the chroma out. So then the way to be able to see the gaming scene behind this is to right click on the transition scene here, go to filters. We're going to add a new filter here, and we want to select chroma key. You can name it whatever you want. If you want to rename it, we're going to select this green. And what you're going to notice is if you have anything green in your background, in your room, on your clothes, having this kind of similarity up this high is going to it's going to show up a little bit weird, and I'll show you what I mean. So here you see I have these like teal shapes and whatever. When I switch to the transition scene, they all kind of go black and weird. It wants to green screen those out. So what you do is you go back into your filters, you take this similarity, and personally I turn it down to about 30. We made that chroma a true green, so 43 should be good. Let's try that again. We're going to go from just chatting. Yep, that looks a lot better. And that's how you do it. So now it's all set up in OBS. We're ready to talk about how to set this up in a hotkey so that you don't have to, forget, oh, which scene did I set this to or whatever. And the easiest way to do that, before we do that, we do have to go into the settings here under hotkeys and make sure that we set a hotkey for each scene. So I'll set control 1 to the gaming desktop. I'll set control 2 to just chatting, things like that. For the transition scene, we want to set it to, whatever hotkey you want. I'm going to have it set to control 3, for example. And then we're going to set up the hotkey in our macro software. So make sure you set these hotkeys here first by going down and saying switch to scene and doing whatever you want, like that. We only want one key per scene, or one hotkey shortcut per scene. Anyway, we'll cover that now. Alright, so for the custom macros, I'm using a macro keyboard that I built myself. It's using what's called Boot Mapper. I understand that a lot of people aren't going to have this software, and it's going to be different for them. But don't pay attention on, the exact options I'm clicking on. This is going to be a basic layout to how you want to do your macros. If I can do this macro on this keyboard that I made myself, you should be able to accomplish this in pretty much any other macro software. Even if you use, Auto Hotkey or whatever, Razer, Stream Deck, it should all be pretty similar. So we're going to make a macro here. The first thing, so because my hotkey is control 3 or whatever to switch this scene, first we're going to do that. We're going to do control, and we're going to make sure we have the down and up. In between the control, we're going to do our number. We're going to make sure to split it so it tells it when the key presses down and when the key lifts up. I'm going to add a little bit of a delay here. Apply delay. We're going to apply delay to that. Perfect. So this is going to be the first step. So this is going to be telling it to switch to that transition scene. And that would be good, but when that transition is over, we want it to switch back to like the original destination screen. So when we're in just chatting and we switch it to transition, we don't want it to stay on this transition scene. We want it to switch back to the gaming scene like that. You see, and then we can go wherever we want from there. So in order to accomplish that, after this, we're going to add another hotkey to switch to the gaming scene. So for me, my gaming hotkey is Control 1. So we're going to kind of do the same thing here. Control 1, we're going to split these up so we have where the button presses down when the button comes up. We're going to add the delay here just to, we don't want it to try to run through this macro too fast, but that setting might be different for you. What's important is to apply a delay between when you switch to the transition scene here and then when you switch back to the gaming scene here. So we're going to select the first part of our switch to the gaming scene. We're going to apply a delay that's close to, it's going to be longer than the transition, right? So that when the green screen swipes in and stops there, it waits until the transition is done playing before it switches to the gaming scene. So for me, that's about 3 seconds. So we're going to set this to 3 and apply delay. Now you're going to want to save this as a macro or upload it to your keyboard, however your macro setup works. This is what you want, this basic kind of guideline where it switches to the transition scene, it waits for the transition to play, and then it'll switch back to your destination. So if we can see how that works here, so we're on this scene here, right? We want to transition, and then it'll pop back up here. And that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. So that's all it takes. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you were able to follow along and learn something. And I hope that you have a great transition to add to your Twitch stream now. I know I use it on mine all the time. You can catch me over at twitch.tv/Lebby, where where you're going to see me playing a bunch of games, chilling out, having fun with my friends. I recently just finished playing Sonic Adventure 2, so go check that out. I am going to be doing some more tutorials on transitions, maybe audio things, setting up gear, things like that on this channel. So go ahead, subscribe, follow, hit the bell, whatever it takes to catch another one of my videos. I'll hopefully have one up soon. But until then, I hope to see you over on my Twitch. I hope you guys have a great night.